welcome in everybody, wherever you are, however you may be listening. This is your Wednesday wrap-up. I got my man Herb with me this morning. How's it going, man?
I have coffee, all is well.
Yeah.
I may even start singing.
And if you're watching here, make sure you have your coffee also. All right. So, a league we don't talk a ton about, but we do have to a little bit, is the AF1. So it's the Arena Football League, at least what it's become. And there's been a couple of interesting developments. So one of them is, for those of you not familiar, the commissioner of the league is Jeff Fisher, former coach of the Rams. He's also the president of the Nashville Cats. They just brought in John Gruden to be an advisor for the Nashville Cats. So that'll be interesting to see exactly how much involvement he has with the Cats themselves, with the league as a whole. So very cool in that way, because anytime you can get more star power to a newer league helps bring more eyes to it. So I'm very interested to see exactly what his involvement ultimately becomes with the league itself. When it comes to the Nashville Cats, obviously we're not really going to know, right? Because I'm a couple miles away from Nashville.
couple of miles.
Couple of like there's 4 digits there, so I mean it's ways.
Right. I always wonder when they do that, the advisor role. Like, what do you actually do? Like, is your name just out there? Do you kind of swing by the building, say whatever? Is he really more involved than we'll ever know, for real, too? So,
so when
star power is always good, though, for a league like that, 1,000%. Anytime you can get people talking about you, I think that's good.
For sure. Well, and when Gruden is an advisor, he gets involved. Okay. So that is one thing that's kind of unique about him. He was involved with the I forget which team. It was over in the European Football League, though, and he had an advisory role over there for a while. He's most recently in the NFL had an advisory role with the Saints when they brought Carr over. And so he does get pretty heavily involved, which is why I'm interested to see exactly how this starts to come together.
Right.
That being said, we're quite a ways into this season, so I don't know how much he's really trying to do. We're 7-8 games into this year now, so I don't know how much he can really affect anything moving forward other than having his name associated with the league. Yeah. But it's the playoff picture that I find funny at the moment. So going into the season, there were supposed to be 10 teams. It was going to be an East Division, West Division, and it was going to be 6 teams, right? 2 teams lock it up, two wild card teams per, right? So 6 teams total make the playoffs. 2 teams dropped out before the season started. So there's only 8 teams. There's not divisions, right? Because there's only 8 teams. So, I mean, you don't really need to do that. That being said, there's no clear indicator if there's going to be 4 playoff teams or 6.
Yep.
So, and I think some of that is just because of the fact that this league has gone through struggles at the beginning of the year and they played a little bit of catch up. I mean, they had 4 different versions of the schedule as the teams dropped out and stuff. So, I mean, it's been a work in progress. I can't imagine the logistics end of it has probably been a nightmare. And then they play in hockey stadiums. So then if your minor league hockey happened to make the playoffs like they did here, all of a sudden we end up with Thursday night games that are hard to get people in the stands for. So, I mean, it makes for weird situations. But looking at the playoff picture, this is where it gets funny, because if it's 6 teams, then the final 2 teams, it's kind of some murky water, because there are 4 teams with only 2 wins, which means 2 of those would make it. So,
and heaven forbid they win a playoff game.
I mean, they might. Right? Like, you never know. You never know.
Oh, so my goodness.
There is one undefeated team, which is the Firebirds, the Storm are 5-3. The Cats and the Tritons are both 3-2. And then everybody else is a 2-win team. And like, I think you would make it only a 4-team playoff.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Especially because you don't have divisions or anything.
Right.
But, man, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it. And again, like, even on their website, there's no clear indicator of what that's actually going to be.
Right.
And maybe they don't really know yet, you know?
I don't think you can do that, though. You cannot let a 2-win team. Like, you just can't have that.
Well, I mean, you still have like 5 games left.
Right.
Or,
so maybe they get to 3.
Well, but, you know, only 2 of the 4, right? So inevitably, like, they're not all going to stay 2-win. I mean, that would be horrendous.
Bo speaks it into existence.
Oh, man. I hate seeing teams with losing records go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I understand my Seahawks did it once. You know, they won their division with a losing record, which is wild. But
it happens in the Eastern Conference in basketball all the time. It's just it's maddening.
So basketball's different because everybody gets to go, right? They're just like, you get a playoff spot and you get a playoff spot. And we realize you didn't even have a team, but you get a playoff spot. Like, it's just.
You're going to see the Seattle Supersonics in the playoffs. Sorry, too soon.
Yeah, no, it's, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. But that being said, it will make these bottom teams exciting if they decide to put 6 in, because their season's not over yet. Because otherwise, if they're like, yeah, it's only 4, it's a wrap, right? Like, if you're 2-5, 2-6, that's it. Like, if you're looking at only 4 teams make the playoffs, none of the rest of these teams with 2 wins really have a shot unless a team just absolutely falls apart. Which would be the Tritons. Something happened where it looks like maybe they are playing with replacement players or something.
What?
Because they got beat by 100 this week. And so that makes me think that maybe they didn't actually field a team.
I'm calling timeout. I need a 20-second. How do you get beat by 100? Like, you know who gets beat by 100? That's like a women's basketball game where, like, UConn is playing, like, you know, San Jose State for the deaf and blind. That's the only place, like, I consistently see scores like that.
Listen to these scores, and then we'll hit the last one, and you tell me which one is not like the other. So, Game 1, they win 40-12. Game 2, they win 51-37. Then they win 61-21. Then they drop a game 47-40, right? Then they get smoked 100-12. Does it sound like they have the same players on the field for that game?
No. Like, so they lost 47-40 and everyone got fired? Like,
I don't know.
The owner was so mad.
Like, is this a team that's maybe in financial trouble and they just, like, found dudes to fill the roster for the game? I don't know. And again, this is just speculation. I don't know. But when you see scores the way they had them, and then this last week, it sure makes you think that there was different dudes on that field.
Yeah, 12? That's crazy. That's, I don't even know how you found, and that's even more impressive than, like, you gave up 100. Did you throw an interception on every play? Was there a fumble, like, every time out? Did you decline the ball? You know, they kicked it to you and you're like, no, we're good. Like,
right?
You have to work in arena to only get 12.
It was against the best team in the league that is undefeated. But I don't think they're that much better, right? I mean, they're far and away the best team.
Right.
I don't know that they're 100-12.
Right.
Right? Like, I feel like that's not the same, especially for a team that had been blowing other teams out.
Right.
So it's not like they just, the Tritons just forgot how to play football. So that's what makes me think maybe there were different people in those uniforms as just like we couldn't pay our guys, but we had a game on the schedule.
And we still had to get out there. That makes a lot more sense than anything else, because I can't imagine, even with just regular guys off the street, there'd be a point where I'm like slow playing every single time we have the ball. Like I'm not letting somebody get to 100. That's just, when you say people off the street, you're talking like the janitor, the water boy.
No, that is exactly it, right? Just like some semi-pro guys that are around and available or whatever. Yes, but that also means you probably don't have a coach either.
Yeah, true.
Right? So it's just dudes going out there, trying to play together that probably didn't practice together, right? So, I mean, if that's how it went down, it would be ugly. Now, I don't know if that's how it went down. Maybe they were just that bad. I have no idea. But that score seems far enough away.
Right.
That it sure makes me think something else happened.
Yeah. Even if you said like 100 to like 40, I'm like, oh, they had a lot of bad stuff or they were scoring really quickly. But you guys were putting something up. There were some possessions. Yeah. 12 makes it sound like you didn't even have the ball. Like they flipped the coin after every touchdown. It's, you lose. They get the ball again.
And then they're like, double-headed coin.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Something. And that's why I say, like, the disparity there seems wild. Because to put up 100, you have to have the ball a lot, and you have to be scoring like first strike all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. I mean, because it's not like the game is that long. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to hear. It's one downside about startup leagues is information doesn't come out very well, and so I don't know what's going on there. But you sure can speculate on it, because you're just like, man, because to your point, if they would have put up 40, you'd be like, you guys had a rough night.
Right.
But when you put up 12, you're like, I feel like that was a different team, probably. Yes. So, and then one other thing on the AF1 before we move on is Washington Wolfpack dropped their final game at home, and it was crazy because it was a defensive battle, and for three of the four quarters, it's a defensive battle anyway. The wheels kind of came off in the fourth quarter, but it was crazy that the offense just couldn't do anything. This is a team they played last week. So they played in Oregon last week, and then Oregon came here. Now, it is tough to beat a team twice in a row.
Right.
No question. But they had 3 drives in a row where they stopped them at the goal line with an interception.
Whoa.
And couldn't move the ball, right? So the Wolfpack are getting interceptions on the goal line to prevent scores. They go into halftime. They're I forget what the score was. They were down by 5, I think. But so you get those turnovers and then can't do anything with it. Then in the third quarter, you get a fumble on a lightning drive. It's a sack fumble, right? So you have all these extra opportunities. No points came out of any of those. I mean, you're going to lose those kind of games, right?
Yeah.
So then they block a kick, and this is one that I have to look at the rules, because I feel like potentially this was miscalled because it sounds dumb. And so they were setting up to kick a field goal. They block it. Wolfpack recovers in the end zone. They called it a safety.
No.
Exactly. So they only get 2 points out of that. On the ensuing kickoff, it bounces off the net. Kicking team recovers. Touchdown Lightning. And then the game completely changed from there.
How do you get penalized for blocking a kick? That's kind of number one.
Well, if it was a point after, I could get it. But this was a field goal kick.
Yeah.
And so I just didn't that didn't make sense to me. In any level of football, that should have been a touchdown the opposite direction.
Right.
And so maybe there's something different with this particular league, which is why I'm like, okay, I gotta look into this, because that being ruled a safety.
Wait, they blocked it and ran it.
So they blocked it, it rolled into the end zone, and they recover it.
And they called that a safety.
They called it a safety.
Yeah, no.
Again, every other version of football, that's a touchdown the opposite direction, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I got to try and find their rule book, because that just seems odd. Like that seems like a very weird one. Unless they said that it hit the wall, I guess. Right? Because that would be the same as rolling out of the back of the end zone. If they called it a dead ball, then it would be a safety, I guess. But it looked like it was recovered, and it was on the side of the field I was standing on. So it's not like it was the other end. I couldn't see it. I mean, it was like right in front of me. So it was, I don't know. That's one I got to do more research, because it didn't make sense. But that swing of events where they only got 2 points and then they immediately gave up a touchdown on the kickoff, really that changed the game. And then, the Lightning took it over from there, and it was a wrap.
It was a wrap, yeah.
But
I feel bad for the defense in that case when you're forcing turnovers and the offense is doing nothing for you. That just kind of leads to frustration to me. We had a game like that against Tennessee, the team we had on last night, where like the defense is doing what it can to get you something, and you don't capitalize. And just like yours, like we lost that game because of that. You have to turn that into something, And at some point, the defense kind of, I don't want to say they push at times, but they're like, what else can we do? We're giving you, like in your case, 4 extra possessions that we're getting nothing out of? Got to give me something.
Well, 5, really. 5 when you think about it, because they blocked that kick. You get that return, and then your special teams ends up giving up a touchdown there, because that essentially goes down as an onside kick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's I mean, you get 5 high quality stops.
Yeah.
And yeah,
you got to give me something.
Well, and then of course in the fourth quarter, at that point, your defense been on the field all day.
Yeah.
So you're just gassed.
Yeah.
The other thing about this league is the penalties are wildly inconsistent. And so this game, they weren't calling anything all game. I mean, and there was some very real penalties that probably should have been called on both sides, right? Like they were missing calls on both sides.
Right.
And then in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden it was just flags constantly.
You can't do, we had a recent game where that same, it was a basketball game, sorry, but it's the same situation. The whole first half, they're mugging. Because I think we talked about it here maybe. They're mugging everyone. And then it's like 3 whistles in the first minute of the second half.
Exactly.
And you're just like, you cannot look, if you're letting me mug a guy, first quarter, whatever, I'm like, okay, or first half, whatever, right?
Yep.
Third quarter, I'm like, okay, we're still doing this. Fourth quarter, I do it. You call it, I'm like, it's been too long,
Yeah.
Like,
just call it consistent.
Yeah.
Right? Call it the same way all game. Like if we get to beat each other up, cool. If we don't, cool.
Right.
But I need to know, right?
Yeah.
That's like when a strike zone moves.
Yes.
It's like, this has been a strike all day. What do you mean it's a ball now?
Right.
So yeah, it's I don't know. It's a weird league. Obviously, it's the first year of it, right? Because last year it was the AFL, now it's the AF1. So I mean, it's under new ownership, kind of, and leadership and whatever. But there's definitely things that need to get ironed out. One of them is keeping teams in the league,
Right.
And then the ref crews, man, they need to be consistent, because there's been calls that like also just didn't make sense. Not that I want to bury the refs. I'm sure they're not getting paid well either, right? It's a low level league as it sits today. But at the same time, how you get to the upper levels, be good at your job.
Right. I mean, it's still, no, you're right about it. No matter what you're getting paid, if you decide to step out there, you still want to do a good job at it. And you are kind of one of the bigger ambassadors of the product, because you control the whole flow of how the game goes and if I enjoy it or not. You see those games where they're calling everything.
Oh, yeah.
You slow the game down. Nobody wants to watch that product anymore. Even the announcers start complaining. So no matter what it is. And I want the arena to, because I miss watching it back in the day. And there's definitely a void here in this time that you could easily fill with. There are people like us who are like, football? Yeah, me like football. I'll watch whatever football you throw on there. So
well, and it's funny because you don't get the you don't get the TV eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now for the Arena League, it's tough because they don't have real TV contracts yet. So, some of it is you can see it on their YouTube. Some of it is there's special games that are on Vice TV. This last game was simulcast on local Xfinity channels, but it's hard to consume the sport because you never know where the game is going to be, and communication isn't generally great, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're not going out of your way to watch the UFL yet either.
No.
Right? Which is
unfortunate. And we have a team.
No, that's because they've also made it harder to consume, right? Like they treat it like the WNBA treats their product. They're just like, well, you like it, you'll find it. It's like, well, how about you let me know where it is?
That is exactly it. Somebody posted on our thing like, how come you're not watching? I'm like, it's I do have to go out of my way. And look, man, we're kind of at a lazy point in our lives. We want stuff kind of thrown at us, I can instantly tell you at 6:00 tonight there's NBA playoff games coming on, right?
Yeah.
UFL, I have to go and do some work, When it comes to college football and pros, like you already absolutely know, hey, my team's either playing at 12 or 3 because unless we're really good, we got the night game. You know what I mean? Like all of this stuff. UFL, I'm like,
and you know it. 3? And you know it's soon. Like we're a month away from knowing the exact schedule.
Yeah.
Right? Where
they have a scheduled release party.
Exactly. Whereas we're in the season and you don't know when it is. Yeah. So, I mean, that's where the marketing teams really need to be better. Or maybe they don't even have one. Maybe they just send it to their high school DECA program and they're like, hey, you guys are marketing students kind of. So, what do you think?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think they would still do better.
That's what I'm going to say. I said, we laugh, but I guarantee you there's some high school kids that if you said, hey, here's a credit, or some college kids, here's a credit, would absolutely take on this project and do a better job than most of these people.
I would have. I was in DECA in high school. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it was, I don't know. They need to figure out how to make that information easier to get because we're not in the habit of watching those things.
No.
So as soon as it's out of sight,
you have to try harder.
Yeah. Well, and it's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Because you're not used to watching the product. So if there's no information, you make it hard to find, and it's something you're not used to watching anyway, what are you going to do? You're not going to watch.
Pretty simple. Pretty simple.
This is not rocket science, but
hey, but before we move on, there's an important piece of news important piece of thing that we have to do real quick.
What's that?
Text Raj and ask him where he's at. Raj, where are you? All right, cool. We're good. Now you come in.
We had a whole dolphin segment. You weren't even here.
Raj, you missed the Tua news this morning. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he got carted off getting coffee.
In his defense, it was a big cup. So it was
That's
like
right.
It was double.
It slid. It paper cut. Almost removed his thumb.
There you go.
Oh man. Stepping into the NFL though.
Oof.
Here we go. We got Tucker getting released by the Ravens. And this is not a shock. He had a bad year last year. Had he balled out at a Pro Bowl level like he has really all of his career, he doesn't get released. But you can't have craziness off the field and then also not be good.
True.
Right? Like they will deal with a lot of off the field noise and problems as long as you're still elite. As soon as you're not elite, they're like, oh yeah, you're a problem. See you later. Hit the bricks.
Yeah.
The Browns have the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever, though.
Oh my goodness.
Get two Massage Madness guys in the building at the same time.
And announce that they're working out together.
Right. And you know what? Hey, kudos to Justin Tucker because he is trying to break yet another record. Deshaun set the bar. He's like, hey, I'm only 15 away.
I got this. I feel like as a kicker, he shouldn't have to try and get as many, though. I think there should be an adjusted record if he's a kicker, right?
Yes.
And I love it. They're like, for football reasons. Well, it was a mixture. Yeah, like you said, you had to have the right amount of on the field and off the field to get rid of him, which is still crazy, but okay.
Well, I mean, it's why guys like Antonio Brown got so many tries, right?
Yeah, true.
Elite talent. His brain is a bag of cats, and so you can't rely on him. And it wasn't until he started giving up on the field that they're like, okay, yeah, I guess we're done. Because now it's not just off the field noise; it's you're a problem on the field.
Yes,
and that's what they're just like, okay, yeah, we're done with it.
Yep.
So
for Tucker, have you seen the Ravens are getting killed for the Tucker thing? Sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
Where they're like, it was a tough decision to let him go, and everybody's like, was it though? Like, and you drafted a kicker. I don't think anybody else did that. So yeah, come on, guys, just say he's gone, and Yeah,
it was a weird message they put out.
Yes.
I mean, I get they were trying for a positive spin, and he was, an all-pro kicker for a decade, right? So, I mean, like, he was elite in his craft. But he was bad last year.
Yeah.
And then you couple it with all the craziness, you have to cut him.
Yeah. He left them no choice, And like I said, this decision was made before the draft. So let's,
Oh, yeah.
They kept it to a certain point, but yeah, it was time. And Justin Tucker, we're going to move on and handle all this trouble that he's got himself into. But yeah, it was going to happen. Like, no one was shocked. We were more shocked by what you guys said afterwards than the actual setting. Like, come on, guys.
And the thing that's funny is, had he not had all the off the field stuff, he'd still be on this roster.
Yeah.
Because one bad season doesn't generally mean you get cut, especially for a kicker. Right. They understand, hey, you're going to have an off year. It happens.
Right.
But you pair it with crazy off the field stuff. Then they're like, yeah, it's probably that time.
Yes. I'm almost surprised they didn't just. Yeah. Or I guess, can he do arena? I don't know.
No, because you don't make any money in arena.
That's arena fitting for him at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, he probably doesn't need the. Well, no, he might need the money.
Yeah, he might.
But no, I mean, UFL would probably be the best spot if he were to keep playing, right?
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. One of the teams is probably going to take a flyer on him because now you can get him for nothing. But when you look at a guy like Rodrigo. He goes down to the UFL because he didn't have another NFL job, and he's been killing it down there. So he may find his way back into the NFL.
Right.
He had a bad year that last year with the Colts, and then he was out of the league. Well, he goes down to the UFL, and he's been crushing it. Right. I think he has like 3 or 4 55-yarders. So that translates to, okay, your leg isn't dead. Your accuracy came back. I could see next year an NFL team, taking another, or at least bringing him in the building, right? Be like, hey, come on in and lost service. Okay. All right. So at 8:27, you paid your bill. Is that what happened?
I used to work with a guy who did that, though. Paid it every time it went off. So
wait until it canceled.
Yeah. Wake up, pay it. I said, okay.
That guy wouldn't be able to finance a cheeseburger.
It was always very interesting. But,
that is awesome. So,
go ahead. No, I was gonna say, is Tucker good enough though? I mean, I understand his past, and we still don't know the whole extent of the allegations. I mean, if they still honestly do continue to get worse or pile on,
sure.
Is it worth it to a team next year? I'd almost rather just take a young guy. I mean, you'd almost have to be a championship guy and think we need a championship kicker. That's all that we're missing. And we're going to ignore that 1 year and all the allegations. I mean, that didn't work out for the Browns. So, although they are the Browns.
I mean, right? Like, even if Deshaun was that guy, the Browns would have found a way to mess it up because it's the Browns. Yeah. But I could absolutely see a team take a shot at bringing him in, especially if it's one where they routinely get the wrong guy, right? Because of his history. It's like,
Right.
okay, you had one bad season. Was it an outlier or is it who you are now? Right. So you bring him in because you probably get him for a league minimum because now he's damaged goods reputation wise. So you could see a team, historically like the Vikings, who seem to always get a kicker that will bungle the most important kick. Right. Or maybe the Bears or something like that. Right. Where they seem to find kickers that like mess their life up.
Right.
And you're looking at a kicker you can get for cheap, has been an all-pro caliber player for, over 10 years. Yeah, you had a bad year, but is that you had a bad year or is that just who you are now? Right. And I don't know that you know that, but you can get him for cheap. So you probably at least give him a shot.
And then have one of those clauses like if any more trouble pops up, you're out of here. Sort of Deshaun. So
yeah, that's the only your wife can give you a massage kind of thing. Yeah.
It took like your wife? No, your wife, idiot. You know what? Never mind.
That's one of those. You better send her to school to know how to do it during the off season, so that by the season she's certified.
I think, and the scary, like, you've got this off season, but they've got to find out, I guess, like I said, the full extent. And then, but what if you're in like a Watson situation where it even resolves then and you get a guy like Tucker, and then he has to miss half the season, is that worth it too as well? So I could see him being done, honestly, just because the stink of, like I said, the last season and all this on top of it and being a kicker, people are willing, like, you're higher up your position, the more you're willing to put up with. A quarterback, hey, we're good with you. Kicker, punter, you're already gone.
So for being the most accurate kicker,
right?
That's where I think he might get a shot, whereas 99% of the rest of them wouldn't.
Right.
But because, up until this last year, he was the most accurate kicker all time. And it's not like he didn't play a lot of games, right? So, there's a skill set there that I think someone will take a shot at. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get anything. But
oh my goodness.
Oh man.
Raj.
What are we doing, man? We'll put that one up. Because people watching would be like, what is he talking about?
Oh my goodness. You're going to put a guy with all these problems around a whole bunch of college graduates, like.
Yeah, I don't know that that's
or college kids, I mean.
I don't think that's the example you want brought into the building.
Rod's getting everybody fired.
Right? So we did have some breaking news this morning.
Wow.
Steelers trade Pickens to the Cowboys. And they get back a third for next year and a fifth in 27. Cowboys get Pickens and a sixth rounder next year.
Yeah. I'm just very confused.
That is going to be hilarious.
On both sides.
He's not the number one target in Dallas. So if he was mad about not getting the ball enough where he was the number one target, this seems like it's going to go awesome.
I'm excited.
Right? I'm not mad at it. Like, looking at it, you're just like, oh man, this is going to be hilarious. But that does bring some questions to the Steelers.
Man.
Because now you have DK.
Right.
And you have DK.
Yes.
That's it. So you're going to go get, because a lot of the free agents are kind of done now. So
right.
Amari Cooper's still out there, which would actually be a good pickup. If they could go get Amari, I would actually like that for them. He's a possession guy. That'll help your new quarterback out.
Right.
It makes you think that they're probably done with the Rodgers fiasco at this point. So if you got an Amari Cooper as your possession guy, you have DK for the long ball. I could see that working. But then when you look at the rest of the free agents, like it starts to slide off quite a bit.
Right.
So,
right. Well, it's so late in the game for all of this,
exactly.
and you didn't draft a wide receiver either. Like I'm
Yeah.
looking at their depth chart, I'm just thinking DK Metcalf, their third wide receiver was already Calvin Austin. Okay. Pat Freiermuth does a decent job at tight end, but who are the rest of these? Robert Woods, Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller. Like, these sound like basketball players. Like, they don't sound like NFL wide receivers. And heaven forbid DK get banged up and miss a game.
Well,
like,
and he has every year.
Yeah. So what are we? And we don't have a quarterback. I mean, unless you're just really a believer in Mason Rudolph. Like, I don't.
Well, no. For whatever reason, they do seem to like Rudolph, but you have to figure their new guy is going to get to play.
Come on, Will Howard?
Yeah.
But didn't they take him in like the 6th round? Like, if that's our plan.
Well, they did, but he is that big-bodied guy that Big Ben was, which is a guy that Tomlin likes, right? Like, that's a frame that he likes. He does throw a good ball, right? He's not the most athletic guy ever, but
right.
I mean, it's not like Big Ben was either.
Right.
So
he was athletic enough. I'll give him credit for that, especially in the Notre Dame game. But he also had the most weapons out of anybody.
Yeah.
Both his running backs got drafted, and his wide receiver would be, if he was eligible, would have been like, a top 5 pick. The only reason why I don't say number 1 is because he's a wide receiver. People need a quarterback, whatever. But he's got the best wide receiver in football. His second wide receiver got drafted, and I think the third might still be there if Tate's still there. But he had all that around him. You're going from all that to none of that.
Well, I mean, you do have a top receiver. Sort of singular. You have an elite defense, so that helps. Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be all right. Him being athletic enough is another reason that I compare him to Big Ben. Right? That's one of those deceptive athleticism. Right. Because when you saw Big Ben, you're like, yeah, this dude is gonna move glacially slow, but he was big enough that he could just like rumble down the field a ways. Right. So I think that Will Howard kind of embodies some of that. So then you pair him with a good possession guy, like if they went and got Amari, that would make a ton of sense to me. If they don't do anything, if they're just happy with their receiver room, man, one of them guys going to have to pop off, make a name for himself, because as it sits today, you got DK who doesn't run the best routes ever.
And I saw a lot of that this year, and that's not even one of my things. But so the top of your wide receiver one, like you said, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Nelson Aguilar, Odell Beckham, DJ Chark, Tyler Blake.
Yeah, but like a lot of those aren't really dudes, right? Like,
no,
Odell Beckham, you're not going to go get that guy.
No,
I mean, he is healthy enough to be on the field for about 4 games.
Right.
Maybe 6. And he's going to get you 300 to 400 yards for the season. That's not even a guy worth going and getting.
Right.
Keenan Allen could work. Amari Cooper's probably your best athlete.
Definitely.
Aguilar.
That's like my third receiver. I don't mind Nelson Aguilar at times, but
see, I'm thinking Aguilar is my 4th. Like if we're running quads, right? If we're running quads, I could see him as that short yardage option, right? Where he's got a linebacker on him. He could beat a linebacker still. You start looking beyond that. Chark and Boyd and Kadarius. Like, I don't need a guy that can't catch the ball.
Basically.
Might as well just not have a guy out there.
Right.
Bring in another tight end and split him out. Doesn't matter.
This list gets bad. Some of these people I haven't even heard of. That's how bad this list gets. So really, really quickly. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that I think you just gotta go get Cooper. because that guy can still ball. Everybody else on this list, you're just like, ooh, okay.
How did you get away with not drafting a wide receiver anywhere in here? Just taking a chance.
Especially if you were going to get rid of Pickens.
Yeah.
So did you go into the draft thinking you were keeping him? Because that's the only reason I could think that you would do this, because your free agents were already mostly gone. So did you go in thinking, hey, we have DK and Pickens, this is going to be sweet? Or did you know the whole time and then you're like, you know what? We probably should draft somebody, but yeah, we're not going to. Like, I don't know.
Remember we talked about this before, the lack of planning on some of these guys who are almost taking it. That shows me day by day. And then I'm looking at their draft. They took 5 of their 7 picks were defensive players. Like, did you think that the offense was just fine? You took a quarterback in the 6th and a running back in the, second?
Yeah. Well, but especially for a team that they won a lot of those games because of their defense, especially early in the year, right? All of those Justin Fields wins, that was defense. So did you need to double down on defense? I mean, I feel like there's some things on offense that you need.
Yeah. That's what I mean, and so I guess you didn't even have a second, but your 3rd round pick, running back, and then 6th round pick, quarterback. That's what you invested in the offense. And then you traded away wide receiver, of which you only had 2. So you traded away half your wide receivers. I love those kind of phrasings. They traded away half their wide receivers. Really? Yeah, just one guy.
Half the room gone.
It just screams we're trying to get back to 9 and 8. Maybe squeeze out the 10th game where we kick 6 field goals and hold the other. It just screams first round exit is what we're going for. We're not going for it all. We're just trying to be just good enough to not be terrible.
Well, and how are you going to get rid of, like, how do you not draft an athletic receiver if you're going to get rid of Pickens? Like, if that was the plan, and expect your rookie quarterback to have success.
Right.
Because now you have a guy that his best route is a deep ball.
Right.
You got rid of your other talented guy who did run a little bit better routes than DK.
Right.
You got a bunch of dudes that no one's ever heard of. I mean, I don't know. I don't see exactly what the plan is there, but
I don't think there is one. I think that's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to make tonight's show interesting because there are some Steeler fans on there.
Oh, wow.
And so getting their take on this is going to be hilarious because I feel like they're going to be happy and mad at the same time, right? Because everybody saw that DK and Pickens together probably wasn't going to be a great fit, right? Because both of them want the ball all the time. And both are kind of hotheads and complain and, all of that. But at the same time, it's hard to win games if you only have one option. Yes. And you can lock up DK because if he's your number 1 and he doesn't run a crisp route, he doesn't get the separation. So although he can win a 50-50 ball, you're not going to win him every time.
Yeah.
And if you don't run crisp routes, defenders don't have to be elite to stay with you. Now, if you're just streaking down the field, yeah, you're probably going to beat him. That doesn't get dialed up in play calling very often. Like your streak down the field is like twice a game. Outside of that, it's more of a possession game of trying to move the sticks.
Right.
And if you're not good at moving the sticks, I mean, we watch DK drop balls that hit him square in the hands, lack of concentration, or you'll see him round off routes where that's really easy for a defender to stay with you, right? Like that's why they, in any football camp ever, right? When you're a receiver, they tell you to plant and go, right? You want that hard, it's the separation because you know where you're going. The defender doesn't. So your defender inherently always kind of rounds off a little bit because they have to protect against the double move.
Right.
Because if they hard bite on it and you cut again, you're either going to make contact and you're going to get a flag, or they're going to miss you and you're going to have 2 yards running down the field on them. So the defense inherently always has to shadow a little deep on a harsh cut. DK doesn't run routes that way. So I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch. From a fan aspect where I'm not a Steelers fan.
Right. I would not. I mean, I root for Tomlin. I keep thinking it's time for him to go. And the way they're constructing this team just is another year towards, you're going to be a mediocre team again. So I don't get this. I also don't get, if you were going to do this, why not trade Pickens before this draft and get another bite at getting his replacement in this draft? Why kick it to next year? A third next year? Great.
All things being equal, if you were going to get a third for him anyway, this draft wouldn't have been helpful for you.
True.
Because it wasn't a very good receiver draft. There was basically like 3 or 4 guys. Everybody else is sort of what you already have on your roster. So I don't know that you necessarily would have gained anything by doing that this year. Because otherwise you would have had to trade up to go get somebody. But yeah, I don't know. It does look like maybe they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah. And I think that of a lot of GMs. So it's not just Pittsburgh, but there was no long-term planning when they did this, at all. So
I do find it curious that people keep wanting to get Tomlin out of the building. I get that they haven't won a playoff game in 6 years, 6 or 7 years, something like that. But at the same time, you're in the playoffs every year. So do you want to be the Giants?
And never make it.
Where you're just bad? Or, I'd rather get my hat in the ring every year and have a shot, right? Makes you think back to, the Eli Giants, where it's like, okay, you're a wild card team, but if you go on a run, hey,
you're in there,
right? And you get a ring. I'd rather have my chance. And, every year you're that playoff caliber team. And, maybe you're not ever looked at as the elite Super Bowl favorite, but you can go steal one. Whereas if you just straight miss the playoffs, it's a wrap, So I always struggle with that because I'd rather be a team that has a shot every year than just suck.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And if they did get rid of Tomlin, he'd have a job instantly. Oh, yeah. It just kind of feels like they've reached a stagnant point where they're in the exact same spot every single year. And because they're the Steelers and with their history, I think that they're going to eventually move on from him. And I could even see a trade, for one of the other teams. And maybe I don't know how he feels about maybe more of a rebuilding situation, but I like Tomlin as a coach. And I think he's a good motivator. And, I can't place all the offensive blame on him because, what have they had that's been just great over there? It just seems like they're building their team on great defense and just hope we get enough offense to survive. And it just, that part keeps failing. But
when you look at their quarterback selections, right, you're talking about Mason Rudolph and Trubisky and Justin Fields. And you're talking about dudes that didn't make it anywhere.
Yeah.
Pickett. Yeah. Pickett. And I know I'm missing a couple, but really since Big Ben, they haven't had anybody. It's just been some random dudes, and they've somehow found a way to still make it in the playoffs. It was 2 years ago. They had 3 different starters at quarterback. They sneak into the playoffs somehow. And Trubisky got 2 different shots at it that year. I think Mason had 2 different shots at it that year. So, it's just kind of, they're finding ways to get in because of elite defense. So maybe they found their guy, but I can't imagine that they're letting Tomlin go. He signed his extension last year.
Right.
Steelers aren't exactly in the habit of firing coaches in the middle of a contract. They haven't had that many coaches over the course of their existence, right? They've had 10 or something, right?
Yeah. They keep their guys. Once they've decided on it, the decision's been made. So that's, that's
they're you're our guy.
Yeah. So
I did find it hilarious though, because people are like, we got to get him out of the building. And then they're like, oh, he signed an extension. But no, I guess the other end of that is, who is it that's out there that you think is going to do as good of a job as Tomlin has done?
Nobody.
right?
That part is actually is extremely accurate. There's nobody that they're clamoring for. They're just like, oh, let's get rid of him. Like, who's the replacement? Oh, I don't know. We're just going to yell at the next guy because the next guy, the way
he's
the
going to have a
Steelers,
losing season.
yeah. But then the way, you know, what you just mentioned with the Steelers, the next guy's not getting fired. You know, once they commit to a guy, they're all in. So that guy, you're just going to have to endure whatever you endure. But if you think he can get more out of the roster, there was an article I read sometime last year, I think, that I may have talked about it briefly on here. But a guy was like, for all the people who don't like Tomlin or whatever, he's like, go look at what happens to most of his players after they leave his team. Like, they're not the same players anymore. So he was like, so what it makes him feel like in the article was Tomlin gets the most out of his players. He's like, go look at like the Juju Smith-Schusters of the world, you know, and stuff like that, where when the guy leaves, you're like, dang, he was really good at Pittsburgh. What happened? He left Pittsburgh, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, you could say the same thing with Belichick and the Patriots, right? I mean, guys would be there. They'd ball out way above their, you know, where you think they'd be. They'd leave. They have had one decent season afterwards, and then they fall off the map. They're just gone. And Tomlin's that same guy. So if he wanted to keep coaching, I mean, another team would snap him up in a heartbeat. But I always find it interesting when people are like, oh yeah, we got to fire this guy. It's like, okay, well, I mean, cool. Yeah. So what's, so what's the plan? Like, who do you got behind that? Crickets. You know, that was one of the things here in Seattle when people are like, oh, we got to get rid of Geno. And it's like, okay, well, who do you plan to get that's going to do better than what Geno? And remember, Geno, 2 of the 3 years set the single season passing record for the Seahawks. So it's not like he was out there being a bum.
Right.
And he was in like the top 5 as far as accuracy and everything. So you would pose that question. It's like, okay, well, who would you go get? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, exactly. So unless you have a plan, you can't just be out here saying stupid stuff like fire the guy. Okay, well, who gets the job? One, I don't know, somebody. It's like, oh, how does that elevate the team again?
Right.
What are we trying to be a 2-win team? What are we doing?
Right. Those are the same people that somehow end up with GM jobs. They're like, all right, we just got to get rid of this guy, like you said, and have no idea who the next person comes in. So I always love those conversations.
And I think that's exactly what happened with Pickens.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you go and get Cooper, there's nobody on that list that makes sense.
No.
I mean,
look at that list.
It's not great.
No.
So, I mean, there's Amari Cooper and then there's the rest of the list, right? Like, and it's not even like he's elite, but if he was the number 2, right? Because DK is going to get the focus. So if he's your number 2, that absolutely makes sense.
Yeah. I swear you get to a point on this list with Gunner, Olszewski, and Juwan Winfrey. Like,
yeah, are these guys just not technically retired? Because I don't remember them even being in the league.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I mean,
one of these sounds like a made-up name.
You know, and there's a former Seahawk on here, Eskridge, and I feel bad for him because he balls out preseason. And then something happens when the regular season starts where he just like the drop off is crazy. The fact that he's not on a roster is a little bit crazy though, because I would have thought that someone would have picked him up just as a punt returner. Because he does do that pretty well. But then, I mean, what? You got Cooper and Allen are probably your best options. The fact that Kadarius Toney is still in the league at all, I mean, he's not, I guess, right? He's not on a team, but his inability to catch the ball makes me think that his career is probably over.
Yeah, at a position where like receiver is literally in your name and you're not catching the ball, that's right. It's a tough one.
It makes me think of the Replacements, right? He's he needs the stick 'em,
the super stick 'em, where he can't even spike the ball afterwards. Yep.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah, like some of the guys on this list, I've never even heard of.
Yeah,
like I didn't even know they were in the league. So I'm guessing that they were maybe like a 4th option somewhere last year.
Yeah.
Or maybe even deeper. Maybe they were practice squad guys. I have no idea. But
which would be a Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, well, they already have enough guys like that. Like I said, I look at their depth chart and I'm just thinking, I don't even know these names either. So,
no, I mean, there's really only 2 free agents that would even make sense because the rest of these guys, I would imagine, are every bit the same as the depth chart that they have.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Good luck, guys.
Crazy stuff. That does get us to the top of the hour, though. If you've been hanging out with us, be sure to like and subscribe. In fact, if you are watching on my YouTube, make sure you are subscribed. We're getting close to that 1,000 subscriber mark. We are 33 away. When we hit it, we're going to give away the Tyler Lockett signature card.
To me.
Well, I mean, it's whoever is subscribed to the channel. So you do have a shot. But it'll be a random selection from within that list. So be sure to subscribe to that. If you're watching on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we are going to get out of here. See y'all next week, everybody.